Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. Growing up, my mother and I had a close relationship. We confided in each other and shared everything. She was my biggest cheerleader and my most trusted advisor. So when I fell in love and decided to get married, I naturally assumed she would be on board with my decision. But when her new husband's daughter, whom I barely knew, got out of a 6-month relationship, suddenly everything changed. My mother claimed it was out of respect for her new stepdaughter's feelings that she didn't want me to get married. But I knew better. She was just trying to control my life once again. At first, I was taken aback by her sudden change of heart. I couldn't understand why my mother, who had always supported me in the past, was suddenly trying to dictate my life choices. I tried to reason with her to explain why getting married was important to me, but she wouldn't listen. As time went on, I became more and more frustrated with her. I felt like she was being hypocritical, putting the feelings of someone she barely knew over her own daughter's happiness. I tried to stand up for myself, assert my independence, and make my own decisions. But it only seemed to make things worse. When my mother told me outright that I couldn't get married, I couldn't help but laugh in her face. I told her to pound sand and mind her own business. I thought I was standing up for myself and my autonomy, but in reality, I was just fueling the fire. With my mother's approval, I had to make all the preparations for my wedding on my own. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to make it happen. I spent countless hours researching venues, vendors, and dresses. I put in extra hours at work to save up the money I needed. Despite my mother's absence, I was lucky to have a supportive fiancé by my side. He was patient and understanding, always there to lend an ear or a helping hand. He encouraged me to follow my heart and pursue my dreams, even when it seemed like everything was falling apart. Now that it was just 3 months away from our wedding day, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. It had been a long journey, but I knew that all the hard work and sacrifice would be worth it in the end. Weeks after our last conversation, my mother reached out to me again. She wasn't calling to apologize or to try to mend our relationship. No, she was calling to ask for my help. According to her, her life was falling apart. She was struggling. Her marriage was on the rocks because of her stepdaughter, and she was feeling alone and lost. I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication, knowing that she was finally getting a taste of what it felt like to be rejected and alone. But as the conversation went on, I began to feel a sense of anger and resentment towards my mother. It seemed like she was only calling me because she needed something from me, not because she cared about me or our relationship. She went on to tell me all about her problems, asking for my advice and support. But when I tried to bring up the issue of my wedding, she brushed it aside, acting like it was no big deal. It was like she was trying to pretend that nothing had happened, that she hadn't spent months trying to sabotage my happiness. I couldn't help but feel frustrated and angry with her. It was like she was only thinking about herself, and she had no regard for my feelings or my future. After all the pain and stress she had put me through, I couldn't just forgive and forget. Despite my anger, part of me still wanted to help my mother. After all, she was still my family and I didn't want to just turn my back on her. But I knew that it wouldn't be easy and I couldn't let her take advantage of me again. So I hung up the phone in frustration. I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and disappointment. My relationship with my mother would never be the same again, and I knew that it would take a lot of work to even begin to heal the rift between us. I took a deep breath and called my mother back a few minutes later. As soon as she answered, I could tell that she was in a bad mood. She was rude and dismissive, and she seemed to be taking out all of her frustrations on me. As I tried to talk to her about her problems, she interrupted me and accused me of only caring about my happiness. She called me selfish and greedy, telling me that I was only focused on my marriage and didn't care about anyone else's feelings. I felt a wave of anger and frustration wash over me. How could she say that after everything she had put me through? How could she try to make me feel guilty for pursuing my happiness and following my heart? But despite my anger, I knew that I had to confront her. I couldn't let her continue to treat me like a doormat or let her manipulate me into feeling guilty. Mom, I said firmly, I understand that you're going through a tough time, but that doesn't give you the right to be rude or dismissive to me. I've always tried to be there for you, even when you haven't been there for me. But I can't just ignore the way you treated me or pretend like it didn't happen. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. I could tell that my mother was taken aback by my words and that she hadn't expected me to confront her like this. But I didn't back down. I continued to speak my mind and telling her how hurt and angry I was and how disappointed I was in her behavior. As the conversation went on, I could feel my anger beginning to dissipate. I wasn't sure if I could ever forgive my mother for what she had done, but I knew that I had stood up for myself and taken control of the situation. But for now, I had to focus on my own life and my upcoming wedding and try not to let her selfishness and manipulation get in the way of my happiness. After the call with my mother, I sat down with my fiancé and told him everything that had happened. He listened patiently as I recounted the conversation, offering me comfort and support when I needed it. I leaned into his embrace, feeling grateful for his love and support. I knew that I had made the right choice by confronting my mother, but it had been an emotional and draining experience. Update 1. It's been a month since all this first happened, and I received another call from my mother. This time she sounded much more contrite and apologetic. She told me that she wanted to make things right between us and that she was willing to help with my wedding preparations if I needed it. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to let my guard down and trust her again, especially after everything she had put me through. But part of me also hoped that maybe, just maybe, she had changed and was sincere in her offer. So I agreed to meet with her and see how things went. But as soon as she arrived at my apartment, I could tell that things were not going to go well. My mother had come with her new husband and his daughter in tow, and they were both being pushy and controlling. They tried to take over the wedding planning, making decisions without my input, and trying to force their own opinions on me. I tried to keep my cool and stand my ground, but it was clear that my mother was still trying to manipulate and control me. I could feel my anger rising, and I knew that I couldn't let her push me around anymore. Finally, after a heated argument, I told them to leave. I stood at the door and watched as they walked out, hand in hand, looking hurt and angry. But I knew that I had made the right choice for myself and my fiancé. As I closed the door, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. It was clear that my mother still had a lot of work to do if she wanted to repair our relationship. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in control of my own life and my own happiness. And that was a feeling that I would hold on to no matter what challenges lay ahead. Update 2. After the incident with my mother, I felt more stressed and anxious than ever before. I couldn't shake the feeling that she and her new family would try to ruin my wedding or cause some kind of drama. As the days went by, I found myself reconsidering whether or not I wanted to invite my mother and her new family to the wedding. On one hand, I knew that it was the right thing to do and I couldn't completely cut her out of my life. But on the other hand, I was scared and unsure what might happen if she was there. I talked with my fiancé about my fears and concerns, and he listened patiently as I poured out my heart to him. He was understanding and supportive, assuring me that whatever decision I made, he would be there for me and support me. But in the end, I knew that I couldn't let my fear and anxiety control me. I had to be brave and face my mother, even if it meant taking a risk. So I decided to invite my mother and her new family to the wedding with the understanding that they would be on their best behavior and respect my wishes. I think you're making the right decision by inviting your mother and her new family to the wedding. It shows that you're the bigger person and that you're willing to forgive and move on. You don't want to regret not having your mother there on your special day. Just make sure you set clear boundaries and communicate your expectations to her ahead of time. NTA, I don't think you should invite your mother and her new family to the wedding. They've already shown that they don't respect you or your wishes, and who knows what kind of drama they might cause on your big day. You don't owe them anything, and you have every right to exclude them from your life. It's your wedding, and you should be able to celebrate it without any added stress or anxiety. NTA, your mother sounds like a control freak. It's not her place to dictate when you can or cannot marry or to try and take over your wedding planning. She needs to respect your choices and boundaries. It's not surprising that you feel stressed and anxious around her. You're doing the right thing by setting clear expectations and standing up for yourself. Next story. Me, 26, male, and my fiance, 25, female, had our engagement party at the start of 2021. My fiance's best friend, A, of 15 years, was invited and brought her boyfriend, B, with her. For context, both my fiance and I are Asian, and A and B are Western. During the party, B had a couple of drinks and publicly made a racist comment about me to my brother. B did not know he was my brother, and they got into a pretty heated argument that disrupted the whole party's mood and atmosphere. A apologized on behalf of B, and they both left the party early. After the party, my fiancé and I had a serious discussion and mutually agreed to not invite B to our wedding based on the racist remarks he made, and also because A will be at the bridal party and not be present to hold B in check. Like every Asian family, we also have a lot of relatives coming to our wedding, and I'm worried B will say something offensive to them. Respect is a huge deal in our culture. Prior to this, my fiancé and I had already decided to not allow plus ones if we didn't know them. This is unfortunately due to COVID-19 numbers and financial reasons. I'm also a believer in creating a comfortable wedding atmosphere. I want the day to be as stress-free as possible for my fiancée, as she deserves to have the best day of her life after working so hard on all the planning. Fast forward a couple of months. B proposes to A and she says yes. A meets up with my fiancé and asks her to be on her bridal party. My fiancé accepts, but not before telling A that B will not be invited to our wedding due to the above reasons. A becomes a little defensive and argues that B is always saying these things as a joke and that he thinks it's okay because he has Asian friends. A then tells my fiancé that she will ask B to apologize to me formally. Another few months pass and B messages me and asks to catch up for a beer. I don't drink. I was in the middle of the busy season for work and told B I'm happy to meet, but to reschedule. B doesn't reply, and it slips my mind to follow up due to work, preparing for our wedding in November, etc. Last week, A sends us a handwritten letter to our mailbox telling us that she will be pulling out of my fiancé's bridal party and kicking my fiancé's out of hers. A explains that she will not feel happy celebrating our wedding without B being there and believes that our wedding should be celebrated with couples being together. My fiancé is now freaking out and pushing me to meet with A and B and also to apologize to B for not rescheduling a catch-up for him to apologize to me. AITA for being busy and not organizing a time for B to apologize to me for his actions? Should I apologize? Hang on. Your fiancé wants you to apologize to the racist for not chasing him so he could apologize. I have Asian friends? It was only a joke? That's messed up on a number of levels. The burden of organizing his apology falls entirely on B, not you. You are the aggrieved party here. In any case, it sounds like you told B to reschedule and he didn't reply. If anything, you did more than was necessary, more than I would have done. NTA, is it a big deal if they don't come? He is racist. Not sure what she is, don't want to know, to be honest. NTA, see this for the red flag that it is. You already agreed that B shouldn't come. Just because A decided to get engaged to B does not mean that the dynamic should change. If A is willing to drop the friendship over that, then your significant other should just let it go. Part of life is learning that you won't keep every friend forever. Tell your significant other that they can have their friend or they can have you. If his friend is saying that you both must accept B to have A, then your significant other has a decision to make. Is your significant other going to disrespect you by demanding you accept B? You aren't the one who did anything wrong. B did. And A is enabling that. Saying sorry doesn't even always fix everything. Your significant other needs to stop pushing you. Being pushed to accept an apology is not coming from your own heart. It's coming from your significant other's fear of losing A. But you should be a higher priority. After all, you're supposed to be getting married, and why would your significant other even want to be involved in B's wedding? I think it's that red flag that your significant other is not truly ready to commit to you in marriage and honor the vows that come along with that. Next story. Not sure how to start this, so I guess I'll jump into it. My fiance has been asking me what I want for my engagement ring for close to a year. I've sent him reference photos at his request. He's asked me explicitly what carat I want and what carat my family would find acceptable. Don't ask. They are a bit materialistic and overbearing, one of the reasons I moved away from them. I told him repeatedly what my ideal would be, but I emphasized that I would be happy with anything from him because it would be a symbol of his love and commitment. I always knew he makes enough money to buy an impressive ring, but I don't think it's right to put that pressure on him. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, he ended up proposing with a ring that was completely different from what we discussed. The metal was different, the cut, design, etc. He told me it was a family heirloom. I was thrown off because he never mentioned it before. Regardless, I was over the moon, and not only at the thought of marrying him, but so flattered that his family wanted to give me something so sentimental. Obviously, I said yes, and I can only imagine I appeared as ecstatic as I felt. I took the ring and was overjoyed. He paused for a moment and was confused, but kind of recovers, and we went about our normal lives. I've been talking about how happy I was to have something so meaningful from his family for the past 2 weeks. Well, yesterday he sheepishly came to me and gave me exactly the ring we had talked about. At first, I was gutted. I thought his family no longer wanted me to have a part of their history. So he clarified that the first ring wasn't an heirloom. It was something he bought as a joke, and he was expecting a reaction out of me. And he was shocked he didn't get one and didn't know what to do when I was so happy with the first ring. I was floored. In that moment, I was so confused and had so many conflicting feelings I couldn't process in real time that I didn't know what to say. I just walked out the room. He now is saying that I ruined our proposal wedding story by walking away and shutting him out when he gave me an expensive ring. He is genuinely upset at me for not being stoked. He pranked me initially. Am I the a-hole for being disappointed and confused? Wow. You are absolutely NTA at all, but your fiancé is a massive, shockingly immature one. What the frick is wrong with him? It's horrifying enough that he's so childish that he thought that turning his marriage proposal to you into some sort of prank on you was in any way appropriate, but to then try to blame you for not being thrilled when you found out that he thought what should have been one of the most special moments of both of your lives and making an actual, literal joke out of it. I can't imagine feeling anything but betrayed and furious. Clearly, you're NTA, but you have bigger problems. This man not only can't read a room, he can't be serious even about the most meaningful moments of your relationship. And he cannot and will not consider your feelings even above his need to play childish games. Are you sure this is someone you want to build a life with? Because he's showing you who he is, and it's not someone reliable or considerate. NTA. But what the heck kind of prank was that? Did he want you to throw a fit during the proposal? I don't understand. If anyone ruined your proposal story, it was him and his weird prank. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.